Reese, thanks very much. We're just glad Coach didn't get splinters. Welcome to college football on ESPN, presented by Cars.com. And we welcome you to Columbia, South Carolina, an SEC matchup between the Florida Gators and the Gamecocks of South Carolina. Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Patrick, Ed Cunningham. It's great to have you with us. Florida has already qualified for the SEC championship game, but they have designs on bigger things. South Carolina, meanwhile, still trying to become bowl eligible, and they'll have to do it without the head ball coach.
Yeah, Steve Spurrier resigned a few weeks ago, and Sean Elliott, who was the offensive line coach, took over. And what a breath of fresh air it's been here. The head ball coach said a new voice was needed, and this guy has a great voice. He is so positive. They've changed the offense, more option, more runs. Former offensive line coach now touching all of the team, and you can see the energy of this team growing even through two tough losses. And they've handed the reins over to Perry Orth, a former walk-on, not the typical Spurrier-type quarterback, a good arm, but he also can run it. You're going to see a lot more option today. And, oh, by the way, as good as this team has played, they haven't played at home in a while. They've played on the road. First game at home. I don't know that this is an upset as South Carolina pulls this one out. A lot of energy for them.
South Carolina won the toss. They have deferred. So Landon Ard will kick it away. 2/3 of his kicks have gone into the end zone. Brandon Powell deep to receive, standing a yard deep, averaging 21.6 yards a return this year. And he'll let it go. They'll start at the 25. We check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Thanks, Mike. Folks, the South Carolina roots run deep for interim head coach Sean Elliott, who grew up in nearby Camden as a huge Gamecock fan. Heck, his brother went to school here. His dad was a highway patrolman who worked security here. And his high school team, the Camden Bulldogs, won a state championship on this very field in 1990. Now, when you talk to him, his energy and emotions are infectious. We see it on the practice field. You saw it in the games the last 2 weeks at Tennessee and A&M. Die-hard Gamecock fans are thrilled at what he has done. Many believe a resume win today may be all it takes to remove the word interim from his title. Mike?
Jerry, thanks very much. A lot of people rooting for him.
And he has done a wonderful job. Slow starts for South Carolina all season. Let's see if a rare home game helps them out.
Treon Harris, empty backfield, goes out to Antonio Galloway. Kid with just tremendous ability. Harris took over the Gator offense when Will Greer was suspended mid-October. The sophomore has completed 55% of his passes, thrown for more than 850 yards, 5 touchdowns, just 1 pick. And he also can get some yards on the ground.
He admitted that, he was in a different offense last year when he started 6 games as a freshman under Will Muschamp. Admitted that he was a little big lights against LSU. He started to settle in a bit.
Taylor swallowed up by T.J. Holloman, the middle linebacker. But it should be enough for a first down.
And Harris and Greer had kind of gone back and forth a bit. They thought of them as kind of co-quarterbacks coming into the season, but then Greer had kind of separated himself. Greer had a fantastic game against Ole Miss, 4 touchdowns, but then was suspended by the NCAA for performance-enhancing drugs. A 12-month suspension that they are now appealing, but Harris has taken over, and below him, it gets really thin. Josh Grady now, the backup quarterback, a transfer from Vanderbilt who played mostly wide receiver there.
Blitz coming. Trying to get away from pressure, and we'll just throw it away. Jake McGee was in the area, so they won't call him for intentional grounding, but Treon Harris was under complete assault as Marcavius Lewis, the junior college transfer, and to some people, the #1 JUCO prospect in the country, was putting pressure on the quarterback.
McElwain knows a thing or two about transfers because when he got here, there was a lot of defensive players. Florida, one of the best defenses in the country under Muschamp, and still. But the cupboards were pretty bare offensively. They got a transfer offensive tackle. As I mentioned, they're down to a transfer, mostly wide receiver quarterback from Vanderbilt as the backup.
Kelvin Taylor, off right tackle. Gets a couple, and that's all. Gerald Dixon, Jr., number 92.
And this is what Florida offensively, they've had some struggles up front on the offensive line, but they're trying to get Kelvin Taylor course, whose father, Fred, was a star here in the NFL. Off the edge, McElwain, a run-first offensive coordinator from all of his time, especially under Nick Saban while he was at Alabama.
DeAndre Goolsby, number 30, checks in as a tight end, and they put him in the slot. Harris with time, floats it for the sideline. Tried to fit it in there to Demarcus Robinson, but he was double covered, and the Gators will have to kick it away.
That ball floated on Harris. He's good on the short intermediate throws. Some of the longer throws are where his accuracy is not spot on. This ball floated forever. For a second there, Demarcus Robinson, who had a nice game last week against Vanderbilt, albeit he had a fumble late in the game, but that ball just hung forever on Harris. You got to drill that a little tighter.
Johnny Townsend to kick to Pharaoh Cooper, the multi-talented star for South Carolina. Takes it on the hop, only gets a yard or two on the return out to the 28-yard line. Kick of 42 yards. The South Carolina quarterback is Perry Orth, one of 3 to start for the Gamecocks this season. The junior hasn't exactly been lighting it up, completing only 54% of his passes, 6 interceptions to go along with 7 touchdowns. But he has gotten better, it seems, every week.
And if you have not seen South Carolina play since Steve Spurrier left, it's a not totally different offense, but they have added a ton of different types of options. And this is good news for Florida. That is John Bullard, one of the best defensive tackles in the country, who was questionable with an arm injury, out for the first snap.
South Carolina wearing all black will be penalized, or at least there's a flag down on the first play.
Prior to the snap, false start, 76, offense, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Mike Matulis called for it. Let's take a look at today's Impact Players, brought to you by Jared, the Galleria of Jewelry.
Well, you mentioned Pharaoh Cooper. He'll throw it, he'll run it, he'll be everywhere. Brandon Wilds, they want to get him 17 or more carries. That's what he's been running for the last 3 games, establishing the power run more. Alex McAllister off the edge, getting better as a run defender, but awfully good as a pass rusher. And Vernon Hargraves, one of the best 1 or 2 corners that we've seen. We saw Mackenzie Alexander at Clemson, a very good one, but Hargraves, a guy who can erase one side of the field for this Florida defense.
4-man rush, plenty of time. And both quarterbacks having trouble early with accuracy issues.
Yeah, if you're going to throw that on the sideline, you can't be over by the Gatorade. It's got to be in the field of play. And Orth, who took over earlier in the year, the starter was Connor Mitch. So Florida has had South Carolina has had its issues at quarterback as well. Mitch was hurt with a separated shoulder and a badly bruised hip. Had to be hospitalized. And Lorenzo Nunez, a true freshman who's more of a runner, sometimes comes in and play and has started.
Cooper takes a wildcat snap. Pharaoh Cooper out to the 36-yard line is where they'll mark it. It'll be a couple of yards shy, and as Ed said, he can do anything.
Jim McElwain, the head coach of Florida, said this guy might be the best player in our league. Watch this move here. Whoop. Great block, good finish there of the block up front by the left tackle Shell, but what a cut and what acceleration.
Florida offside. 94, Brian Cox Jr. His dad, a great player in his own right, now an assistant coach in the NFL.
Defense, number 94. 5-yard penalty results in the first down.
Brian Cox Sr. was a frightening man to play against.
Oh, he was wonderful.
I played against him multiple times. He didn't say much, but the energy he had was just a bit frightening. And this guy starting to play a little more on offense has given them good energy. A lot of defensive lineman issues for Florida coming into this game. Jordan Sherritt, a very promising young lineman, will not play in the first half after being ejected for targeting in the second half against Vanderbilt last week.
Orth with Wilds as his running back. Wilds will get the carry. Picks up a couple of yards before Bullard stops him. Pro Football Weekly said that Bullard was the #1 run stopper in college football and is a sure high draft choice.
And he got injured and played very well against Vanderbilt. At times he has been unblockable this year, but he had an arm injury, did not practice much. He is from Shelby, North Carolina, not far from here. So we were told he was going to do everything he could to try to play.
Orth flushed. Doesn't slide. Head first dive out to just across the 45-yard line as the pocket collapsed.
Well, let's watch why the pocket collapsed. This guy has some power. Look at the hands inside on the lineman. Got to be careful with that hand up to the face there at the end. It was okay, and there's a Florida player down. That's not a good news with Alex McAllister down. More issues up front, but that's why this guy is so important to this Gators defense, is how powerful he can be in the middle.
And that's last week's SEC Defensive Player of the Week who is down. We'll check on him when we come back. You're watching the SEC on ESPN. 0-0, early first quarter, and Alex McAllister walked ever so slowly off the field and is being tended to on the Gator sideline.
For Sean Elliott, a offensive line coach by trade, he was at Appalachian State, came here to the SEC 5 years ago. Interim head coach, now changing the offense so that 3rd and 5 used to be a throwdown and you knew it every time. Now this could be an option run with this new wrinkle offense.
Quick out, and that is quite a story. The man who made that catch, Hayden Hurst, a 6'5", 252-pound, 23-year-old freshman who was a walk-on and has elite skills.
He was a pitcher and first baseman in the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. He was friends with Perry Orth. Orth texted him and said, hey, you should come walk on and play football. They tried him at tight end. They realized, well, he doesn't like to block. He used to be a pitcher. But he's got 4.5 speed, great hands, and apparently a great arm, too, which sounded like we may see later today.
Fake the double reverse, and they will lose multiple yardages. C.C. Jefferson comes over to make the tackle. A loss of 6.
Well, everyone playing South Carolina needs to know a lot of this is coming at them. And Florida talked about all week Jeff Collins, the first-year defensive coordinator.
They had Lorenzo Nunez, one of the quarterbacks, taking the handoff. He wanted to throw it.
It looks like he may have injured himself. Good recognition by Jefferson, though. True freshman. Didn't panic.
Florida comes to the 4-man rush. Great throw, a better catch, a huge hit from Nick Washington, but the ball did not come loose as Perry Orth just drilled it in there.
Good job by Matrick Belton bringing this in. Orth a little bit late. And a good hit by the safety coming over, not leading with the head. He turned his shoulder, so a good, clean shoulder hit. But Belton did seem to wave himself off after the catch.
Matrick Belton, 6'4", went up, knew the hit was coming, got it anyway. And then Orth ran into trouble as he tries to scramble. Cox and Morrison, the middle linebacker, combined to sandwich him at the 45.
Antonio Morrison exploded up on the quarterback on that run. You didn't see many quarterback runs when Spurrier was the coach, but now with G.A. Mangus taking over as the offensive coordinator. But Morrison, a guy who had a gruesome knee injury in the bowl game, was maybe going to sit this year out and just get ready for the NFL draft next year, but worked his way back, and they said was at maybe faster speed first game when they expected him back maybe mid-season this year.
Fair catch, made it to 12. 32-yard punt, no return, no score. Early first quarter.
ESPN College Football is presented by Cars.com. All drive, no drama. And in part by Chick-fil-A. We didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich.
Some of the brave men and women around the world sporting their SEC school colors. This is the week that we honor America's heroes who have served and are currently serving in our nation's armed forces. Jerry Punch with an update on an injured Gator.
Yeah, Alex McAllister helped off the field. They've examined his right knee and now right ankle. Dr. Michael Moser. Good news, it looks like to be an ankle. They're going to retape it. He's up limping around, but going to try to go. Mike?
Doc, thank you very much. Harris back to throw on first down. Pocket collapsing around him, and the ball is just tipped, intended for Callaway, knocked away by T.J. Gurley, who got maybe one finger on it, but one was enough.
Yeah, McAllister still over there getting worked on, but on the other defense, Gurley not quite the 6'6" size of McAllister. But this ball looked all the world like it was going to be a big game in the passing game. Of course, Treon Harris and Antonio Callaway used to hooking up. They played together at Booker T. Washington High School in Miami. So they have good timing, but that time score one for the Gamecocks.
Ed Harris hasn't thrown one pass yet that hasn't floated. Taylor. Little crossbuck action, and Taylor dragging tacklers with him to the 19.
And when we talked to Doug Nussmeier, the new offensive coordinator at Florida under Jim McElwain, they were talking about with Harris, it's about not changing the playbook, but limiting some of the reads he has. Instead of going to the back, he may just take off and run. He's got good feet. He does throw really well on timing short routes, slants and hitches, which is exactly what you'd need here on 3rd and 3 if you were going to throw it.
Brandon Powell, number 4, is in. He's in the slot to the left side. Gamecocks had everybody at the line of scrimmage. Harris hangs in there, throws to Powell. He has it up at the 35, 36-yard line. Gain of 16. We go to the studio and Adnan Virk.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. It's a Taco Bell studio update. Northwestern and Purdue after Warren Long scored a touchdown. Here's David Blow to Dominique Young, 68 yards. It's Young's first career receiving touchdown. We're knotted up at 7. Mike, back to you.
Yeah, Dan, thanks very much. From the Big Ten back to the SEC. Columbia, South Carolina, on an absolutely perfect afternoon. Temperature near 60, just a slight breeze. Harris. Whoa.
Nice job, though, by Gerald Dixon. Well, McAllister's just not moving very well. And this for Florida, of course, if they win out, and that's a big if, they still have Florida State, of course, at the end of the year. This game, not a gimme, but they would have to win the SEC championship. But to lose a guy with his ability, they've already lost. Joey Ivey is out today. We know that Bullard has the arm injury, so starting to lose some key figures on that defense would not be a good way to try to get yourself in the college football playoff.
Harris has been wild so far. Jordan Scarlett comes in as the tailback. He gets a carry and gets nothing. You can understand Will Greer when before he was suspended, completed nearly 66% of his passes. And this is McAllister, how he got rolled up on his lower leg.
Yeah.
But you can also see why Treon Harris is only hitting 54%. He hasn't been close on some of these throws.
And the offensive line, which struggled last week against a good front for Vanderbilt, gave Harris no time. But so far today, this offensive line's been doing a much better job for the Gators.
Taylor was wide, comes back into the backfield. Blitz coming. Taylor on the screen. Nice call against the blitz. And Taylor will have enough to midfield for first down.
Terrific call. You mentioned that, Mike, by Doug Nussmeier. When your quarterback is having a little bit of a tough time with the ball floating, you're on the road, hostile environment, and a terrifically timed job of the right guard, Trip Thurman, getting out, and good vision by Taylor. That looked like it was going to be stopped about 6 yards short, but Taylor made a nice cut, let the block get set up, picks up a huge first down for Florida.
If you send 5, it just means there's one less guy downfield to defend against that screen.
And the timing becomes harder. They had to wait just a beat longer.
Taylor fighting his way for 2. This is a South Carolina defense that has been gashed all year. 110th in the country against the run. 208 yards. That was a sore spot for them a year ago as well.
And they've had a tough time early on in watching them on film. Their defensive line getting off blocks, being able to shed. They seem to settle in. They played really well in the second half against Tennessee last week. They played well against Texas A&M in the second half, but they have never, South Carolina has never had a lead going into halftime in their first 9 games.
Scarlett back in, number 25. They fake it to him. And that's out of bounds. It was caught by Demarcus Robinson, but he was out of bounds, Isaiah Johnson. And there was another pass just thrown up for grabs.
And Robinson did his quarterback a huge favor. See him completely boxing out the secondary player, Isaiah Johnson, a good free safety transfer from Kansas. Well, that went right through his belly.
Yes,
but you know what, though? Give Robinson credit, because that was an interception all the way for number 21. He slowed down and boxed him out.
That's a terrific play by Johnson to get a hand up there and knock it away. 3rd and long. Harris to the sideline to his tight end, Jake McGee, the transfer from Virginia, but they are going to mark him just shy. And decision time for the Gators. Chris Lamons, big tackle to get the tight end and not let him go another yard.
And Jim McElwain, a guy who goes for it more than maybe any coach in the country. And I bring this graphic up. I pulled this out of a book called Scorecasting on a study by David Romer. Now, this one blows people in the SEC's mind, but there is a high school in Arkansas that never punts the ball, kicks it on sides every time after a touchdown. And what the numbers say on those downs and distances, you should be going for it. Well, no, that's
Lamons, the man who made the stop.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take up the discussion again and check on Lamons when we come back to Columbia. Watch this play by number 3 in black. That's Chris Lamons coming over to stop a guy who outweighs him by 60 pounds to keep him from first down yardage. Lamons, of course, gets the worst of it in the contact, but he does make the play, and the Gators will go for it on 4th and 1. My apologies, I said Lamons, it's Lamons.
Off-tackle runs are what Florida usually likes here.
Scarlett did not make it, I don't think. But the mark looks favorable. David Johnson hit him. Remember, you can challenge the spot of the football. I thought he was short watching it live.
Ball's in the left arm. I mean, if they missed this spot, they may have missed it by like an inch or two. It did look to me, Mike, when you called it and the line to make was the 40, it did look like he was short. Yeah. But that first replay, I mean, it would be off by maybe an inch or two. You can challenge this, and Sean Elliott, a new interim head coach, needs to know that he can challenge it. Someone upstairs will say, hey, we should think about challenging this. However, you give up a timeout if you don't get it, and you lose your challenge. That's the other part, and it's gone for the game. But this one right down the line, as Holloway, the middle linebacker, makes a terrific tackle. I mean, first of all, it has to be indisputable video evidence, which I don't think you could do. And I don't think a challenge would be smart here by Elliott, because I don't think it'd be overturned and it would cost him a timeout, but more importantly, would cost him his challenge for the rest of the game.
Powell goes in motion. They fake inside. Harris with all day to throw and has Antonio Callaway wide open. Gain of 25.
Well, the South Carolina defense, the struggle has been for them, and you mentioned their numbers. They're 11th in the SEC in total defense. They have not been able to generate much of a pass rush. And so far, this Florida offensive line, which didn't generate much of a pass block last week against Vanderbilt, looks like the Hogs from the Washington Redskins right now against South Carolina. Harris has all day, and he and his former high school teammate look like they're in their backyard.
When you're that wide open, tough to miss a receiver downfield. Fake to Taylor. Harris again, being pressured this time.
Smart play.
Throws it away just as contact was coming. You're allowed to do that as long as you're outside the pocket.
Yeah, he'd have lost a couple of yards there if he wouldn't have thrown that away. Good coverage that time by South Carolina, but this is where you could see with Will Greer at quarterback. Greer was at 65% completion percentage, more than 10 points higher than Harris. So this is the down and distance in the red zone. We're having a thrower like Greer's a help, and they haven't been able to establish a dominant run game yet because the offensive line is still coming together. So not a gimme here in the red zone for Florida.
This drive so far, 73 yards, more than 5 minutes off the clock. Taylor. They've done a nice job against the run. First man to hit him was Phillip Dukes, got him around the ankles and slowed him down until help arrived.
Well, and of course, Florida has just an exciting, we'll call it, kicking game. They had the 43-yarder last week where Austin Harden, who is below 50% on the year, came in to kick it, but they had a tryout on campus. They have a backup, now walk-on, who's a dental student, Neil McInnes, who tries the short field goals apparently, but if they can get to third and inside four, or fourth and inside four, don't be surprised if Florida goes for it here.
Jim McElwain does not use his name. He just says, we'll go to the dentist. Harris as the pocket is collapsing over the middle, complete inside the 5 to Powell. That'll be enough for a first and goal, Gators.
A couple of nice throws now by Harris. Seems to be settling in. He admitted he had nerves against LSU, still trying to pick up this new offense. But this was a nice throw. Again, terrific pocket for Harris. He has not had to move his feet much and finds Brandon Powell, a guy who's had some recurring foot injuries. Nice that Powell starting to be healthy for the Gators. He can be a difference maker.
Cronkite. And there is an extra R in there as the running back. He gets the carry, and Cronkite has the touchdown.
Well, his name actually has the proper number of R's. Oh, you mean one more than Walter?
I do. Uncle Walter.
Well, one of the freshman backs who's had to come in and help spell Kelvin Taylor. Not much depth there. So Cronkite and Jordan Scarlett, they call them the two Jordans, the freshmen. Both of them apparently have been making good progress in practice. And Cronkite, a guy who was suspended for the first half against Vandy for a targeting block. A rare call against Georgia the week before. So nice of him to get off the schneid.
Austin Harden gets the opportunity for the PAT, knocks it through. And the one-loss Gators, already in the SEC championship game, have taken the lead. Seven 0 Florida over South Carolina here in Columbia this afternoon. Tonight on ABC, Saturday Night Football presented by Walmart. It's a huge Big 12 game. Undefeated number 6 Baylor playing host to number 12 Oklahoma at 8 Eastern, as well as streaming live on Watch ESPN. Baylor leads the nation in scoring 57.4. Oklahoma giving up only 18, so something's got to give.
And if you're a true SEC fan, who are you? Quick quiz. Who are you rooting for?
You would be rooting for whoever is lower ranked every
Oklahoma.
time, wouldn't you?
Yeah, with the one loss, you'd want Oklahoma to beat the unbeaten Baylor and let the Big 12 tumble around towards the finish, so that, say, the Florida Gators come out with one loss with a huge upset of Alabama in the SEC championship game, they would be in. See how I prognosticated that? Florida.
Congratulations.
Alabama.
Let's see if Adnan Verk agrees.
Mike, I'm always in favor of Ed Cunningham prognosticating, but want to let you know about Maryland and Michigan State. Big Ten action for you. Tyler O'Connor in for Connor Cook, who left the game. McGarrett Kings Jr., the recipient, 7-all right now on ESPN2. Mike, Ed, back to more prognosticating.
Adnan, we saw Connor Cook a couple of weeks ago. He is the real deal.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's going to be all right.
If he's not, and it's just a exhilarating loss, if that's a thing, last week against Nebraska. But with Cook out, things could get a little easier for Ohio State and Michigan to lock up the East.
Jonathan Walton, the former linebacker, has been moved to offense. Number 28 is in the backfield. He'll lead block for Wilds, and Wilds will only get a yard.
Kind of the new regime here. Sean Elliott, the interim head coach, said immediately, I want to put my fingerprints on this team. And one of the things he did was take a linebacker who had been a really good, powerful running back in high school. He'd been demoted as the outside linebacker. Sky Moore had moved over to his spot, and they said, let's get him in some fullback. Well, they didn't just get him at fullback. The guy caught a touchdown pass last week against Tennessee, and he said the sideline erupted. It's really added nice energy to the team.
4 wide receivers set. Orth throws incomplete. His receiver went one way, the ball went the other.
Yeah, or if immediately he was talking to his receiver, Matrick Belton.
That's what's going to make a quarterback look very bad when,
Yeah.
because the quarterback, 90% of the time, he's correct on where he is supposed to throw the ball. When the receiver makes an outcut instead of going in, really looks ugly.
Especially if there's a cornerback standing there ready to take it to the house
Exactly.
the other way. Yeah.
3rd and long, Gamecocks need to do better than 3 and out on this possession. Orth pump fake, now in trouble, and down he goes back at the 23-yard line. Caleb Brantley, a very talented kid, a sophomore, 6'2", 303. What a pair of tackles with he and Bullard inside.
And there's Brantley going one-on-one on left guard Mike Matulis. It's the inside hand every time. We saw that earlier with Bullard with the hands inside the offensive linemen's. That time he stuck his inside hand into the chest of Matulis and controlled him right off the snap. Brantley, a guy who, when his motor's going, he's playing well. They said he can take over games. He's had a couple of really good ones this year.
Antonio Callaway has to back up inside the 25 to make the fair catch. A beautiful 53-yard kick by Sean Kelly. We've got a timeout on the field in beautiful Columbia, South Carolina, and we'll be back after this. Back in Columbia, where the Gators lead the Gamecocks 7-0. Let's take a look back with our Panera Bread Drive recap, which is obviously tasty.
And comes with an apple. Treon Harris getting a nice call from Doug Nussmeier, the offensive coordinator, on 3rd and about 14. Taylor picks up the first down on a really nicely timed screen. High school teammate to high school teammate there to Callaway. And then the freshman, Cronkrek, gets to finish it for Jim McElwain, the first-year head coach who left Alabama as the offensive coordinator for 3 years at Colorado State. Helped build a nice program there before taking over for Will Muschamp this season.
Not easy to turn a program around in 3 years, and he did it.
Well, I said, to McElwain, we were talking to him, I said, it feels like you were just at Alabama. You get older in 3 years. He said, yeah, but that first year at Colorado State felt like 30. And here's a guy who spent 15 years at Eastern Washington. For those in this part of the country, just Google it. It's in Cheney, Washington. But he spent 15 years there as a player, coach, worked his way up as the popcorn guy at the women's basketball games. He's done it all. He said, we'll keep grinding here.
The Gators let the first quarter clock run out. They're up 7-0 at South Carolina.